I'ma keep winning, winning. I'ma keep winning, winning. Ooh. I'ma keep winning, winning. You can try to save yourself, but you only go.
What's going on, guys? JK, I'm back with another video, and today I'm going to be doing my post NFL Combine mock draft because everything's changed now. All the different guys have either risen up boards or fallen down boards from the NFL Combine based on how they performed. So I'm going to be revisiting this and going through my mock draft. But before we get into it, please make sure to like the video, comment down below anything you agreed or disagree with, and make sure to subscribe to my channel for future NFL content that I'm going to be putting out, whether it's the NFL draft, pro days, NFL free agency coming up. Please make sure to subscribe to be able to keep up with all that NFL content I'm going to be putting out. So after the combine, there was a lot of freak athletes ended up increasing their stock in the draft. There's a lot of guys that ended up falling a little bit based on whether they worked out or not. There's been a lot of reports and rumors. So I'm going to be kind of doing this based on what I think is going to happen, not necessarily what I would do, but based on reports, sources that have been posting stuff, and based on what I think each team is going to end up doing. And at number one, we have the Titans going ahead and jumping into this. I think that they're either going to go Cam Ward or they're going to end up trading back. I think the number one pick, no matter what, is going to be Cam Ward, whether it's the New York Giants trading up for it, whether it's Cleveland trading up one spot. So I'm going to go ahead and bust this out. I think the Titans could go Cam Ward at one, or I think that they could trade back to three and take Abdul Carter and allow the Giants to be able to trade up to number one to take Cam Ward. But either way, both teams need a quarterback. The sources and rumors and reports that have been coming out is that after the combine, Cam Ward came in and aced all the interviews, and he's pretty much the solidified number one on a lot of these teams' boards. And it's not even really close to Shador. A lot of teams didn't really like Shador and how he kind of went into the interviews. A lot of them said that he seemed a little bit cocky and didn't really care as much. So I think whoever's at number one, whether somebody trades up, maybe the Jets, Raiders, Browns, Giants, somebody like that, I think Cam Ward is going to be the number one overall pick. It just depends on what team is going to be there to take him at this point. Moving on, number two, Cleveland. I do think, even though the reports are saying that Shador is going to fall a little bit, there's also been a lot of reports that are saying Cleveland is taking quarterback with their first pick. So it's really just going back and forth. Do they really take Shador? Do they go best player available and go with another position? There's also a report that they don't necessarily want to trade Myles Garrett, but Myles Garrett definitely wants out and wants to go to a contender. I think that they're going to end up taking Shador here at number two. As of right now, everything could change, but immediately after the combine, I get this feeling that they are going to go quarterback. I think that they're done with Deshaun Watson. They want somebody young in there for a year or two that is going to be able to take over the reins and just come in for Deshaun Watson while he's not going to be playing next year. And eventually, whenever they get the chance to, they're going to move on off of that Deshaun Watson contract. And they need somebody to come in and be their franchise quarterback that Stefanski has been looking for ever since he became the head coach there. I'm not the biggest Shador Sanders guy, but whenever you're desperate for a quarterback, you're definitely gonna end up overdrafting them. Whether you like him or not, most teams are going to overdraft a quarterback. I think that's what's going to happen with Shador here. The Browns are desperate; they need a quarterback to desperately get off that Deshaun Watson contract, so that's what they do here. We're going with Shador. The Giants want one of these quarterbacks as well, but they're both taken off the board. You're not going to take Jackson Dart here at three. That might be a later round thing. Maybe they take him in the second if he's still there. Maybe they trade up in the back end of the first. But here, you end up just going best player available. Now, whether it's Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, I think for the Giants with Brian Dable, Joe Shane, I think that they're going to end up wanting more of the offensive piece. And it's not a very talented team. So why not get someone that can play both of them? And they're going to get Travis Hunter that can play corner and wide receiver and just add them more talent in general. Somebody that could end up, in my opinion, I think they should play corner and then spot receiver. He may come in and fully just try to play receiver. At the combine, he only worked out as a corner, so it really just depends what team drafts him is what he's going to do. But I think Brian Dable and the Giants, they're just going to be looking to add talent and try to get as much talent as they can on that Giants football team to be able to improve it. Because if they don't come out and win, they're probably going to be fired next year and not going to be there to be able to make the pick. So they're coming in and they're taking Travis Hunter to just get more talent on that team. And the New England Patriots, this is the best scenario for them here. They're going to end up taking Abdul Carter. In my opinion, I think Abdul Carter is the best player in this draft. I think a lot of teams think that as well. But just based on the scenarios here in this mock draft I have going on here, the Patriots end up coming out with the dream scenario and getting Abdul Carter at 4. Mike Vrabel, he has been known. He had a lot of nasty defensive linemen in there that when he was the head coach of the Titans. I think the Patriots are going to look to try to add in free agency elsewhere. They might end up trying to get offensive line talent. Alex Kappa just got released from the Bengals. So maybe one of those. You have Amari Cooper in free agency. You have Chris Godwin. They have tons of cap room to come out and just get talent. And I think that they're just going to try to get some dogs on that defense and just in general that Mike Vrabel is going to love. I think Abdul Carter kind of fits in with that Mike Vrabel type attitude and player. Number 5, the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't think this one changes. I think that this one kind of stays chalk compared to like what a lot of people have been doing. I think that they're going to go Mason Graham. Mason Graham seen as one of the probably the third best player in this class, third or fourth around that area. He was a little bit undersized at the combine. He didn't work out in any drills, but that undersizedness isn't as much of a worry because on film he's a game wrecker. He causes a lot of havoc, and the Jaguars were one of the worst run defenses on the interior. They were one of the worst interior defensive lines in the NFL, and they're going to try to pretty much shore that up to make the life easier of Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker on the edges, and they're going to go with the best player. They could end up going receiver there or even tackle based on what Liam Cohen wants to do. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a tackle taken there, but I'm going to go with Mason Graham right now and just have him take best player available. That could change over the next couple months. The Raiders, they don't get their quarterback, so they could be looking in the second round to go with Jackson Dart. There's a lot of rumors. Maybe they try to go for a Sam Darnold in free agency, somebody like that. I think that they're going to go more the veteran route and maybe wait and try to take a Jackson Dart in the second round, maybe try to trade up in the back end. And I think that they're going to go Ashton Genty here at number 6. The thing is, this is very high for a running back, yes, but this is a loaded running back class and a class that is seen as there's not a lot of star power in it. It's a lot of solid starters with these picks. And the Raiders are one of the worst talented teams in the league, in my opinion. They're one of the least talented rosters in the NFL, and they just need to get playmakers on the team. Whoever is going to be quarterback, whether it's next year, whether it's Jackson Dart, whether it's Sam Darnold, whoever it is, they just need to be able to get talent on that team to be able to help out that person. And Genty's going to do that. Genty's going to be the game changer, and he didn't work out the combine. I think he kind of knew a little bit of why he wouldn't work out. I think he's sure that he's going to go very high in the first round compared to what a lot of people think. Maybe he falls down a little bit. I think we're going to see multiple running backs taken in the first round of the NFL draft. And I think that the Raiders are going to take him here at 6. The New York Jets, this is a very interesting position. Do they take Tedero McMillan? They have multiple needs. I think one of the biggest risers of the combine go here, and I really do like the fit with the New York Jets. And the Lions won a lot of games with a dominant offensive line. I think that's what they're going to try to build here. I'm gonna have them taking Armand Membu at 7. The Jets need a right tackle. They had Morgan Moses, and he's going to be a free agent, and they're pretty much just going to let him walk. He's older. He doesn't really get injured very much, but they're looking for a young replacement. And what better than to get a right tackle is a guy that's super athletic, super quick in the outside zone scheme, has a great first step, is very aggressive, and whenever you watch his tape, he blew up the combine. He had a great rising of the stock at the combine, and I think Armand Membu fits in very well just to slide in at right tackle. Him, Elijah Vera Tucker is going to shore up that right side of the offensive line, and they pretty much have their offensive line set to what they pretty much want. They have all 5 pieces there, and then they're going to be able to move on and kind of look at some of the weapons in different areas. Maybe they can come back in an early round 2, maybe get a Jack Beach from TCU, somebody like that. But I think that they're just going to look to surefire the offensive line, go with a transitional quarterback for this year, and then wait for next year to be able to deal with the long-term quarterback situation. The Carolina Panthers is an interesting spot because Tedero McMillan's still on the board. They could look to add more weapons for Bryce Young, but I do think that their pick is definitely going to be defense, whether it's defensive line or defensive back. And I think there's several spots here, but I do think that they're going to end up going to edge at this spot just to try to add more, you know, just to add more star power on their defense to be able to get more stops for Bryce Young because a lot of times it was their defense that was costing them a lot of the games. And I'm gonna go with another big riser here from the combine. He may not be up this high. I think this is the possible ceiling that he goes as number 8. But Shamar Stewart came out and he may have been one of the number one risers from the combine. Same thing with him at the Senior Bowl. He's just been rising in stock at every single event. He rose at the Senior Bowl. He pretty much dominated everybody there. He rose at the combine, came out and blew it up. He had one of the best combines as an edge player in NFL history with his athleticism scores. And I think the Panthers are really going to see the upside of him, and he's going to be taken a lot higher than what people have originally anticipated. And they're looking for an edge player to just help out their defense that's not very good. So they're just trying to add more talent there to be able to, you know, help out Bryce Young in that offense. So I think that they're going to go with Shamar Stewart. That may be a little bit high, but I think he's going to get overdrafted just based off his athletic abilities. Number 9, New Orleans Saints. I think they just got rid of Taysom Hill, so they're looking to kind of get their weapon, how they kind of use Taysom Hill. I think that they're going to go Tyler Warren here. Tyler Warren's just pretty much a football player. He's more of like that George Kittle type role where he's able to put his hand in the dirt and he's able to go out and block people, and he's also able to go and receive. He makes his impact. He's not really the slot guy like a Brock Bowers. He's more of the George Kittle type vibe. I think the Saints are going to be looking for that with Derek Carr. Pretty much gets a better safety valve, and the Saints just need to get more talented, younger. All their talent is older and they're in salary cap hell every single year. I think after a while of constantly being negative $50 million over the salary cap and having to figure it out, you get kind of tired of it. And with a lot of their core pieces, they're taking up most of that cap being older and then moving on from Taysom Hill. I think Tyler Warren really fits there. The Chicago Bears. They're looking for interior. I do think that they could add it in free agency with like a Kevin Zeitler, somebody like that, and maybe go running back. I would say a Marion Hampton if Genty's on the board would kind of be a fit here. But I'm not going to pull the trigger today yet. Maybe after we hear a little bit more about Marion Hampton. But Will Campbell didn't have the best day at the combine, but I'm still going to have him here going to the Bears at number 10. I think this is a guy. I'm not very high on Will Campbell, but I think the NFL is more high on him. And a lot of the reports that we hear is that they love the 3-year starter at LSU that's been an All-American for multiple years in the SEC. And I think his feet need to get a little bit better. He's not the best as smooth with his feet and his movements, but he does have really good technique. The one concern is that his arms are really short. I don't necessarily think that he's going to be able to play guard at the next level, in my opinion, but what am I know? I'm not an NFL scout or an NFL coach. So I think somebody like the Bears are going to take him in this area and they're going to move him inside the guard, at least with his arms, and he'd be a perfect fit there in Chicago to be able to move in and play one of the interior roles on the offensive line. The San Francisco 49ers, I think that they're either going to need tackle or defensive line here. And I do think that they're going to end up going tackle just because Trent Williams is getting old. He's had a lot of injury history. It could be a Kelvin Banks, could be a Josh Simmons maybe in that area. But I'm going to go ahead. And for some reason, I'm more of a Kelvin Banks guy, but Kelvin Banks has kind of fallen down a little bit. Josh Simmons was hurt a lot, but I'm going to go with Josh Simmons. In my opinion, I think Josh Simmons fits well with the 49ers more than Kelvin Banks. Josh Simmons is more of that outside zone scheme blocking. He ended up getting hurt halfway through the year through 6 games. And I think the 49ers just need to get better in the trenches, whether it's on defensive line, offensive line. Trent Williams is getting old, so Josh Simmons may be able to sit and recover for a while until he's able to be able to healthy up. And then Trent Williams is going to be able to retire at the end of the year or be able to move on. And then Josh Simmons is going to be able to step in and replace him there. The Dallas Cowboys, a lot of people have them taking wide receiver or running back. I do think that they're going to end up re-signing Rico Dow in free agency. So I don't necessarily think that they're going to go running back, but I would not be shocked if they took a Marion Hampton here after Genty being off the board. Would not be shocked that they took Tedero McMillan at wide receiver, maybe a Matthew Golden here. But as of right now, I'm going to stick with it, having them go defense with an edge. And I'm gonna have them going with Mike Green. Mike Green did fall down the board a little bit at the combine. He didn't really work out. He had a little bit of an injury, flare up. They couldn't really participate in the drills. But this is the guy at the Senior Bowl, pretty much dominated everybody. He had one of the highest productions in college football. He had 17 sacks, a ton of tackle for losses last year. So I think the Cowboys are going to look to improve the defense line, get somebody opposite of Micah Parsons to be able to go with him and kind of take a lot of the, attention off of Micah Parsons. That he's getting a lot of double teams and all that. So they're going to go with Mike Green, someone on the opposite side that could also make a huge impact. Now, once again, I would not be shocked if they end up going running back or receiver at that point. Jerry Jones does have a habit, and it's a good habit of he sits still at his pick, and most of the time, a lot of times, the best player on the board will fall to him, and he'll just take him. He did the same thing with CeeDee Lamb. He did the same thing with Zach Martin years ago in that Johnny Manziel draft. And it's a good habit to have because oftentimes it works out for him whenever he just kind of waits and the best player falls to him. But I do think that they're going to go defense at this point now, depending on what they do in free agency. Is going to dictate what they kind of do here. If they go out and sign a lot of defense, and I could see them going with Golden, Hampton, Tedero McMillan, somebody like that. Moving on, Miami Dolphins. A lot of people started to have Armand Membu before the draft or before the combine going here, but at this point, the Dolphins, Armand Membu went seven. I do still think that they go offensive line here, and I think that they're going to go Kelvin Banks. Kelvin Banks would be a pretty good fit because a lot of people do see him as guard as well. I see him more as a tackle, but the Dolphins do need to shore up the offensive line and help out. Tua, make sure Tua is protected and make sure that he is not getting hurt. And Kelvin Banks can come in and play guard for a year or two and then bump out the tackle, kind of similar to the Will Campbell situation there. And I do think that that'd be a great fit for him. He's a mauler in the run game, and them being able to run the ball with HN, and then him being able to protect Tua. I think that Dolphins are really going to look for offensive line at this pick. The Indianapolis Colts, they're gonna go. I'm gonna have them going tight end. A lot of the reports is that Colston Loveland's gonna go higher than what people think. Well, right now, I think he goes more in the mid 20s, but the Colts do need a tight end. Tyler Warren's off the board. Loveland's more of that Brock Bowers type build, and he's going to be playing mostly out of the slot and be more of the receiving threat. He's still going to do a little bit of blocking, but he's not going to be a huge blocker like Tyler Warren would be or George Kittle. He's going to be more of the Brock Bowers type tight end. And the Colts, I think that it's going to be all about developing Anthony Richardson this year, trying to make sure that they know that he's whether he's the guy or not, and they're going to give him the most weapons that they can to help him try to succeed. And if he doesn't succeed, then there's no doubt that he wouldn't be the guy. And Loveland's going to do that. They gives him a safety valve for Anthony Richardson to be able to check it down to or get the ball out quick. The Atlanta Falcons here, I think that they're going to go with edge. They went offense the last couple of years. I think that they're going to go either defensive line, either whether it be interior or the edge position. And looking at a lot of the edges, James Pierce could be one that rose his stock a lot, but I'm going to go with Mykel Williams. Mykel Williams is a freak. He's 6'5", 260. He didn't really dominate or have the production at Georgia that you would want, but if you look at people like Trayvon Walker from a couple of years ago that ended up rising up boards and going number one, he's very similar to Mykel Williams. Mykel Williams is a very raw prospect, but he needs to be developed in the right situation and given a couple of years. Kind of like Trayvon Walker kind of came into his own this year in his third or fourth year in the league. Mykel Williams is more the same way, and the Falcons definitely do need defensive line, and they just need a better defense in general and just get more talent, whether it's at the defense line, interior, or the edge. I think Mykel Williams fits in very well there. The Arizona Cardinals, I think this is a sneaky team. A lot of people are going to have them going defensive line. And I think this sneaky team to go receiver, they have Marvin Harrison, and I think that they're going to look to try to get Kyler Murray more weapons. Their offensive line was decent. It could be better, so they could end up going offensive line here, but a lot of the offensive linemen have already been taken off the board. So one of the reports is that we got out of the combine is that Tedero McMillan is going to fall down the board, and that don't be shocked if Matthew Golden is the first receiver taken in the draft. And Matthew Golden came out and he had a show. He was the number one receiver in the 40-yard dash. He came out blazing, and his route running was very crisp in a lot of the drills. Not only that, but if you look at the tape, he's just a playmaker. Anytime Texas needed a big play, it was always the Golden. Golden was the one that was making the play, especially against Arizona State. When they needed a touchdown to tie it up to send into overtime, it was Matthew Golden. And then where they went into overtime, who was the one that was tearing up Arizona State? It was Matthew Golden. And he's just a big playmaker. I think he would be a huge compliment to Marvin Harrison and to be able to add another weapon to Kyler Murray. The Bengals, a lot have been happening with the Bengals. They are going to tag T. Higgins again for a second straight year. They're letting it go. A lot of other guys, they released Alex Kappa, so guard could be in play here. They're also letting go, and a couple of the defensive players have actually been able to request a trade. Sam Hubbard is a likely trade candidate or a cut candidate for him, whether they can get rid of him. So, with all that happening, I think that they're going to try to get more talent on defense, and they're going to try to either make Trey Henderson's life easier by adding him another edge piece, or they're going to end up adding an interior defensive lineman. And I do think that they're going to go with Walter Nolan here. Walter Nolan would be a good defensive lineman. They just need somebody that's going to be able to step in and stop the run. Trey Henderson also just needs attention taken off of him. He had one of the guys that he led the league in sacks, and their defensive line, their defense or run game in general was one of the worst in the NFL. They just need to get more talent to be able to get it more of a stops and give Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase a chance. Because if they didn't score over 30 plus, they probably weren't winning the game. And the Bengals, I think Walter Nolan's pretty much a good fit there to step in and be more of that run stopper that that team needs on the interior. He'd be a good fit with Chris Jenkins, somebody that they took last year in the draft. And you can pair those two up on the interior, the defense line, and have a pretty good pairing at defensive tackles. The Seattle Seahawks, they need interior offensive line bad, whether it's somebody that's going to play guard and can bump out the tackle, or a center or a guard. And a lot of people are going to look for Tyler Booker here to be able to go here. But in my opinion, I'm going to go with Gray Zabel. Gray Zabel's another guy that's been flying up boards. He was originally a second round pick. He dominated the Senior Bowl. And then he just came in at the combine and he dominated. He looked really smooth in his movements, especially in his pulling. A lot of the pulling drills, he was able to come out and he was able to move very well and just show off his movement that he has on that interior. I think if he gets drafted here by the Seahawks, he would end up playing center. I think a lot of teams are going to view him as a center, but he's very dominant on that interior. He could play all five positions, and I think that that would be a great setup for whoever's going to be the quarterback after Geno Smith in a year or two when they try to move on from him. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they haven't had a dominant edge presence in a couple of years ever since Shaq Barrett ended up kind of getting older. And then they still have Vita Vea dominating on the interior. So I think that they're going to go with another guy that kind of showed out at the combine was James Pierce. James Pierce has had the character issues that have popped up that people have been talking about. But he came out and he ran one of the fastest 40s at the combine for a defensive lineman. He has one of the highest productions 2 years ago. Last year was kind of a fallout for him. He didn't really have the biggest productions last year, but if you look at it from 2 years ago, he was one of the most dominant players in the SEC. And he continued that. He just didn't have the production to back it up after last year. And the Buccaneers, they're looking to add an edge piece after not having a good pass rush for a year or two now. And Todd Bowles, I think, is going to really like this guy, and that's going to be the pick for the Buccaneers. The Denver Broncos, I do think this could be another spot for Amarion Hampton. I think that they're really just going to go offense. They're either going to look for a tight end, a running back, or receiver. They're going to try and make Bo Nix's life as easy as possible. And what better receiver to take for Tedero McMillan to fall into your lap? Tedero McMillan is a guy that's 6'5". He's very fast. He didn't really work out the combine. I wish he would have because he's kind of athletic freak. He has a huge wingspan, so he creates a huge target. And I think Sean Payton's really going to like the mismatches that he's able to kind of go up against with the corners. He's somebody that you can move around. He's huge, but you can move him from the outside or you can move him into the slot. Either one, he can operate out of either one. And Sean Payton's going to see a value in that and his size. So I think Tedero McMillan would be a good fit to be able to make Bo Nix's life a little bit easier. The Pittsburgh Steelers here at 21. A lot of people have had receiver. I do like the receiver fit, but I think at this point, Jahdae Barron from Texas, He was another guy that did very well at the combine. The Steelers, I think, do need DB help. I think that they could wait till the second round maybe to be able to get one of the receivers. You could also look at it the other way. Some of these corners are going to fall, in my opinion, because they've had a lot of injury history. And Jahdae Barron has gotten a lot of hype to be able to, you know, be one of the top corners off the board, him or Will Johnson. And I think that he's going to end up being one of the first corners taken. The Chargers here. The Chargers at this point are going to end up taking Amarion Hampton. Jim Harbaugh is going to look for his guy. J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards are both free agents. And a lot of them, ended up struggling with injury a lot of the time. And I think Amarion Hampton is closer to Genty than what people think. And his combination of speed and power is very rare in a running back. And it's even said some of the sources say that Amarion Hampton is ranked higher than Genty on some teams' boards, and I think that that really says numbers for what he's able to do and what teams think of him. And I think that there's going to be multiple running backs end up going in the first round. So Amarion Hampton is a Jim Harbaugh type guy that's going to end up fitting in the offense. The Green Bay Packers, I think Will Johnson has been sliding, and I think this is a spot where he stops sliding. They're going to end up getting rid of Jair Alexander. They're going to end up trading him away, and they're going to be looking for corner. I do think that this is a team that could end up going offensive line if Gray Zabel is there. Gray Zabel would be a great fit for him, but he's off the board here, and Will Johnson's just kind of sliding down to him. They're kind of a shocking pick every year. But I do think that they could look for offensive line. I wouldn't be shocked if they took receiver. I wouldn't be shocked if they ended up taking edge here. But Will Johnson just kind of falls down the board in the situation into the lap. And with them moving on from Jair Alexander, corner would be a great fit. And Will Johnson is, as long as his injuries and it seemed like everything at the combine ended up going well with medicals, then he's going to end up going here. There has been concerns about speed, but the Packers need a corner. The Minnesota Vikings, they need interior offensive line help too, and he's kind of sliding here a little bit. Is Tyler Booker. I love Tyler Booker. I think he's one of my favorite offensive linemen in this class. I have him number two ranked right now out of all the offensive linemen, including the tackles. He's very physical in the run game, and those are the type of guys that I love. And his technique's great. He's able to maul dudes off the ball at Alabama. His combo blocks to working up to the second level. One of the things I look for in an offensive lineman is how aggressive he is and how does he play his angles when working up to the second level. And he's one of these guys out of all the offensive linemen that I've watched, and I have breakdowns on my video of every single one. So if you haven't seen those, please go back and watch those. But he plays his angles the best climbing to the second level out of any of the offensive linemen in this class. I think the Texans would hate that because they do want to get offensive line for to help CJ Stroud, who was sacked a lot in the playoffs. But Tyler Booker goes right before him, so they're not going to be able to get that help. But I do think with a lot of the receivers still being on the board that they're going to end up going receiver. I think Luther Burton fits in well. Nico Collins is still there, but Tank Dell is probably going to miss a lot next year. And along with Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs is going to be a free agent, so he's probably gone. I don't see them re-signing him. So they're going to look to either get offensive line like a Tyler Booker or Gray Zabel, but they're already off the board. So they're going to end up just getting more weapons for CJ Stroud to be able to operate and somebody to go across from Nico Collins. And Luther Burton does that. He's a yak merchant. He has one of the best run after catches in the NFL draft out all these receivers. Him and Emeka Ibuka are kind of similar to that. So I think the Texans are going to end up taking Luther Burton. The Rams here, I think that they could look for offensive line. Josh Connerly still on the board. So I think Josh Connerly is going to be a pretty good fit for them to be able to take, Note Bloom's a free agent, so they have a big opening on the offensive line. They've dealt with Matthew Stafford's going to be coming back for at least a year or two, and he's older, so he needs to be able to be protected. With Note Bloom being a free agent, you got to bring somebody in to come in and play. Josh Connerly did a good job in the combine. He wasn't one of the biggest risers, but he definitely did rise his stock and performed very well there. So I think it kind of just kept him where he was, maybe up a little bit. But the Rams, I think he is going to be able to replace Note Bloom and protect Stafford to keep him upright. The Ravens, I think they're going to just add to their secondary and put Malachi Starks, who's still on the board, next to Kyle Hamilton. and this would be one of the best safety duos in the league. This is the second time that they've done this in recent memory. They sat at 14, I think it was, or 17, and they just sat there and let Kyle Hamilton fall into the lap. And then Kyle Hamilton ended up being one of the best safeties in the NFL right now. And I think that they would do the same thing here. Malachi Starks just kind of falls in their lap, and then they're going to be able to pair both of them up. The Detroit Lions, this is a sneaky team to go offensive line. You think about them, you think about how dominant their offensive line is, but Kevin Zeitler's a free agent, so they need to be able to replace their offensive line. Za'Darius Smith is still going to be along for, with Aiden Hutchinson on the other edge spot, but how productive is he really going to be? So they could end up taking edge here, but I'm gonna have them taking another guard or interior offensive lineman that ended up raising his stock quite a bit, and that is going to be Donovan Jackson, who is going to be an offensive lineman and be a guard for a lot of these teams if I can end up finding them from Ohio State. And it has him here listed as tackle. He started at guard a lot for the offensive line at Ohio State. But once Josh Simmons got hurt and he ended up going out, then he ended up bouncing out the tackle and he played just as well as Josh Simmons did there at tackle. So he could either play guard or tackle, have the flexibility, but I think he's definitely going to be a guard. He rose his stock a lot at the combine. He had a great combine performance. I think that could lead him into this area in the late first round for a team to be able to take. And Detroit Lions, he's going to fill that Kevin Zeitler need. The Commanders, I think that they do need help on defense, and the main guy that's going to be that is Jalen Walker. I think Jalen Walker will go earlier in this draft in the middle of the first round, but in this case scenario, he's kind of fallen down the board based on need. He he played linebacker at Georgia, but I think whatever team drafts him, he's going to be more of an edge rusher, and the Commanders need an edge. They also need interior defensive line with Jonathan Allen looking to trade, so they're going to look to just try to get more talented for Dan Quinn, who's a defensive mind as a head coach, and Jalen Walker is pretty much a freak athlete. And he could play linebacker or edge, but whatever team drafts him, he's pretty much just going to be an edge. The Buffalo Bills, with Micah Hyde retiring, they need secondary help. Kamir Elam didn't do very well, but I think Nick Emmanwori, who broke the combine, he had one of the best safety days of anybody in NFL combine history. He had one of the best defensive back days out of anybody in NFL history, and they just seemed to stir up their secondary. It got abused by the Chiefs in the second half. And pretty much led to the Chiefs beating them in the playoffs, and they're still trying to get over that Kansas City hump and make it to the AFC Championship and potentially the Super Bowl. And they're trying to get back to that point that they ended up losing to the Chiefs in. And I think with them shoring up the secondary and just getting a freak athlete back there to be able to play and replace Micah Hyde, then I think that's something that they're going to want and be able to help out in that secondary against the Chiefs the next time that they play them. And Kansas City here, they need several spots. They could go interior defensive line. They could go offensive line. I think offensive line is really what they want to do. Maybe a tackle, but a lot of the offensive linemen are taken. There's not many left. You know, you could look at Irsay. I think he's more of a second rounder. You could look at Jared Wilson, but I think he's more of a second rounder. So I think that they're going to go interior defensive line and pair someone up with Chris Jones. I think Kenneth Grant is a great run stopper at Michigan, and he ended up doing a lot for that defensive front. He was paired up with Mason Graham, and he was a great compliment to him. I think he could do the same thing with Chris Jones at that point, going into the Kansas City Chiefs. And lastly, you have the Super Bowl champs, Philadelphia Eagles. I think that they're looking to go linebacker and be able to improve on their linebacker. I think that they could also go edge, but a lot of the edges are on the board. I think a lot of the edges that are here are more second round edges. So I think that they're just going to go best player on the board, and they're going to go with kind of an athletic freak like Jahad Campbell to be able to step in and be a linebacker. Nakobe Dean's had a lot of injury history and had a lot of issues with his injuries, so I think Jahad Campbell could be able to step in there and be a nice rotational piece to step in for Nakobe Dean whenever he's kind of having those issues and step in alongside of him. So this is my pre or post combine NFL mock draft that I've ended up putting out based on how everyone was affected by the combine, where they rose up, where they fall, and what sources are saying, whether teams are falling in love with a certain player or certain players are going to end up falling in the draft based on sources and what I think is going to happen. So Please make sure to like the video, comment down below anything you agreed or disagreed with that I talked about in this video. Maybe you didn't like the pick of your team, maybe you loved it. Comment down below so we can have a conversation about it, and make sure to subscribe to keep up with all the NFL content I'm going to be putting out for NFL draft with mock drafts, pro days, NFL free agency, and thanks for watching.
Yeah, feel like John Morant. Need a triple-double. Told him check the stats. Yeah, I got a couple. I don't drop the ball. Now I never fumble. I'm the MVP. Now I feel like Russell. Feel like John Morant. Need a triple-double. Told him check the stats. Yeah, I got a couple. I don't